The journey toward wholeness begins not with grand achievements or external success, but with a simple, quiet realization: awareness. Awareness is the awakening of the soul, the moment when you turn inward and begin to truly see yourself. It's when you stop running from your emotions, stop fighting your flaws, and begin to observe what's happening inside you with honesty and curiosity. This awareness is the first light that shines into the hidden corners of the mind, and from that light begins the long and beautiful process of acceptance. So many people live disconnected from themselves. They chase approval, avoid pain, and wear masks just to fit into the world's expectations. But deep inside, a voice keeps whispering that something is missing. That whisper is the soul calling you back home, back to yourself. And that homecoming starts when you become aware. To be aware means to stop living on autopilot. It's to pause and ask, who am I beneath all of this? Beneath my roles, my fears, my ambitions? Awareness invites you to look beyond the surface of who you appear to be and explore the deeper layers of your being. It's not about judging what you find there, but about seeing it. Just seeing it clearly. Because when you see clearly, you begin to understand. Awareness is the first act of courage in the journey toward wholeness, because it requires you to face the truth of who you are without filters. It's easier to stay distracted, to blame others, or to escape into noise. But to sit in silence and look inward, that is the moment real transformation begins. Awareness is the mirror through which you meet yourself honestly. You begin to notice patterns in your thoughts, emotions, and actions. You start to recognize the fears that hold you back and the stories you tell yourself about who you are. This awareness can be unsettling at first because it reveals both the light and the shadow within you. But remember, awareness is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about being here, fully, with all that you are. The moment you become aware of something within you, a habit, a feeling, a thought, you take away its power to control you unconsciously. What was once hidden starts to loosen its grip. You begin to see that your anger might be a cry for understanding, your sadness a longing for connection, and your fear a signal of unmet needs. Through awareness, everything becomes information, not condemnation. You start to realize that every emotion, no matter how uncomfortable, carries a message. Awareness is the foundation of acceptance. You cannot accept what you do not first acknowledge. You cannot heal what you refuse to see. When you allow awareness to gently open your inner world, you begin to cultivate compassion for yourself. You see that your struggles and flaws are not signs of failure, but expressions of your humanity. Awareness helps you understand that the parts you've been trying to hide or fix are not enemies. They are wounded aspects of your being that need your attention. The process of becoming whole starts here, in the simple yet profound act of noticing. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Awareness is how you make the unconscious conscious. It's how you begin to see that much of what you experience in life, the repeating challenges, emotional triggers, and relationships, are mirrors reflecting back the parts of you that need integration. When you see clearly, you stop being a victim of fate and start becoming a participant in your own growth. This is why awareness is the beginning of freedom. It gives you the power to choose differently. It shows you where you are stuck and where you are strong. It teaches you that every thought you believe and every emotion you feel shapes your inner world. The more aware you become, the more choice you have. And the more choice you have, the closer you move toward wholeness. But awareness is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. It requires patience, honesty, and courage. Some days it feels peaceful and enlightening. Other days it feels heavy, even painful. But through this process, you start to develop an inner observer, a quiet presence that watches without judgment. This inner observer is the beginning of your conscious self, the part of you that holds space for everything else. When you begin to cultivate awareness, you start noticing how often you resist reality, how you wish things were different, how you deny your own feelings, how you try to control life. Awareness reveals that most suffering comes not from what happens to you, but from your resistance to it. And as you see this clearly, something inside begins to soften. You stop fighting what is and you start listening. That is where acceptance is born, in the stillness of awareness. The journey toward wholeness cannot begin without this foundation. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. The light doesn't change what's there, it simply allows you to see it. Awareness is that light, and once the light is on, you begin to notice things you never saw before. Fears, desires, memories, beliefs, all coexisting within you. Some are beautiful, some are painful, but all are part of your truth. The awareness that comes from seeing yourself clearly is the doorway to understanding your shadow, the hidden parts of yourself that you have denied or repressed. Once you become aware, you can begin to meet those parts with compassion instead of fear. That is the next step in the journey, meeting the shadow. But before you can do that, you must first learn to stay with awareness long enough to let it transform you. So sit with yourself. Observe your thoughts. Listen to your emotions. Feel what is real in this moment. Do not rush to fix or escape. Just see. Awareness is not an intellectual act. It is a deep, living presence. It is the soul's way of saying, I am here. When you embrace awareness, you begin to awaken to life as it truly is, not as you wish it to be. And that is where healing begins. Because when you truly see yourself in all your light and shadow, you start to realize that nothing within you needs to be rejected. Everything has meaning, everything belongs. The journey toward wholeness begins here, in the sacred space of awareness, where you first open your eyes and meet yourself with truth, compassion, and courage. From this awareness will arise the next step, the encounter with your hidden self, the shadow waiting patiently to be seen and integrated. After awareness comes the moment of confrontation, the meeting with the hidden parts of yourself, what Carl Jung called the shadow. The shadow is everything within you that you deny, suppress, or reject. It's the parts of yourself that you don't want others to see, and often the parts you don't even want to see yourself. It carries the traits, emotions, and impulses that society, family, or even you have labeled as unacceptable. But the truth is, the shadow is not evil. It is simply unacknowledged. It is the part of you that has been cast out of the light of awareness, waiting patiently to be seen, accepted, and integrated. Once you awaken to yourself through awareness, you begin to notice glimpses of this hidden side. Maybe it appears as anger you can't explain, jealousy that embarrasses you, guilt that lingers, or desires that seem out of character. You might see it in the way you react to others, in the people who irritate or trigger you, in the patterns that keep repeating in your life. Each of these moments is a mirror, reflecting a part of your own unconscious self. This is how the shadow calls for your attention, through discomfort, conflict, and projection. When you meet the shadow, your first instinct might be resistance. You may feel shame or fear as these hidden aspects begin to surface. But it's important to remember that these reactions are natural. The shadow is not your enemy, it is your teacher. It holds immense energy, creativity, and wisdom that have been locked away. By meeting it with awareness and compassion, you begin the process of transformation. The key is to observe the shadow without judgment, just as you practiced awareness in the first stage. You look at your feelings, your reactions, your impulses, and say, this too is part of me. The moment you do that, something powerful happens. What was unconscious begins to become conscious. You start to reclaim the energy that was trapped in repression. The anger you once feared becomes healthy assertiveness. The sadness you avoided becomes deep empathy. The fear you ran from becomes courage. Each piece of the shadow you bring into awareness adds depth and vitality to your being. The shadow is often formed in childhood when you learned what was acceptable and what was not. Maybe you were told not to cry, not to be angry, not to be too loud, too soft, too sensitive. So you hid those parts away to feel loved and safe. But those parts didn't disappear, they simply went underground. As an adult, they resurface as emotional outbursts, anxiety, or projection onto others. When you dislike something strongly in another person, it's often because it mirrors a trait you have not accepted in yourself. This is why Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. To meet the shadow is to turn that mirror inward." You begin to ask, what in me is being reflected by this? This question turns pain into insight. Facing the shadow takes company. Courage, because it means confronting your own darkness without running away. It means admitting that you are capable of jealousy, rage, envy, pride, and fear, not as a judgment, but as an acknowledgement of your humanity. Everyone carries darkness, and that darkness is not a flaw but a part of life's design. The light cannot exist without shadow. Day cannot exist without night. By denying the darkness, you only make it stronger. By facing it, you begin to transform it. Meeting your shadow is like entering a dark cave. At first, it's uncomfortable and disorienting. You might want to turn back. But if you keep walking, your eyes adjust and you start to see that the darkness isn't empty. It's full of hidden treasures. These treasures are your lost qualities: confidence, passion, creativity, authenticity. Every part of you that was once suppressed holds the potential to bring new energy and balance to your life. Awareness, the first step, gives you the light to see the cave. The shadow, the second step, is the cave itself, the space where your lost parts reside. As you explore this space, you begin to understand that nothing within you is truly bad. It is only misunderstood. When you were unaware, your shadow controlled you from the background. It shaped your relationships, your fears, your desires. But when you meet it consciously, you reclaim your power. You stop being driven by unconscious patterns and start to live from choice. This is how transformation begins. Not by rejecting your darkness, but by embracing it. It's a paradox. The more you accept your shadow, the less power it has to harm you. Denied darkness becomes destructive. Acknowledged darkness becomes strength. It's like integrating the wild, instinctive energy of nature within yourself. When you make peace with your shadow, you don't lose control. You gain depth. You become more real, more grounded, more whole. Meeting your shadow also opens your heart. You start to see that everyone around you is struggling with their own inner darkness. This understanding breeds compassion. Instead of judging others, you recognize their humanity, because you have met your own. The walls of separation begin to dissolve, and a deeper sense of connection emerges. In this sense, meeting your shadow is not just an inner process, it changes how you relate to the world. You begin to live with empathy and humility. You stop pretending to be perfect because you realize that perfection is an illusion. What truly matters is authenticity, being real, being whole. Awareness led you to see yourself clearly. And now, through the meeting of your shadow, you begin to see yourself completely. Awareness opened the door. The shadow invites you to step inside. And as you enter this inner world, you prepare for the next stage, acceptance. Because seeing your darkness is not enough, you must now learn to embrace it. Meeting the shadow without acceptance keeps you in conflict. But meeting it with acceptance begins to transform it into light. The courage to face your shadow is the courage to face yourself, and that courage will lead you toward the heart of wholeness. The peace that comes when every part of you is seen, understood, and embraced. After recognizing your inner self through awareness and confronting the shadow, the next crucial stage is acceptance. Acceptance is the conscious decision to embrace yourself fully. All your strengths, weaknesses, fears, and desires, without judgment or denial. It is the bridge between seeing your hidden aspects and integrating them into a coherent, harmonious whole. Acceptance is often misunderstood as passive resignation, as if one must tolerate what is painful or flawed. In truth, acceptance is an active, courageous act. It requires honesty, compassion, and the willingness to meet yourself where you are without trying to fix, escape, or pretend. When you accept yourself, you no longer fight against your nature. You stop criticizing your emotions, condemning your past mistakes, or rejecting aspects of your personality that society has labeled as undesirable. Instead, you observe them, understand their origins, and allow them to exist within you. Acceptance does not mean you condone harmful behavior or stop striving for growth. It means you stop resisting reality. You recognize that every part of yourself, even the parts that feel uncomfortable, has a purpose and carries vital information about your needs, values, and potential. This stage is transformative because resistance drains energy while acceptance restores it. For years, many people expend immense mental and emotional energy denying, suppressing, or battling parts of themselves. This internal conflict manifests as anxiety, frustration, and a sense of incompleteness. Acceptance, on the other hand, allows energy to flow freely. It liberates you from self-imposed limitations and frees the mind to engage with life consciously. When you embrace your emotions, fears, and flaws, you stop being a prisoner of judgment and become the observer and caretaker of your inner world. Acceptance is intimately connected to the previous stages. Awareness gave you the light to see yourself clearly. Meeting your shadow revealed the parts of yourself that had been hidden or denied. Now acceptance allows you to hold all of this without resistance. Without acceptance, the process of inner transformation remains incomplete. You may see your shadow but reject it, or recognize your flaws but criticize yourself. Acceptance is the moment when observation becomes compassion, and awareness transforms into understanding. It is the pivot point where inner tension begins to dissolve and harmony starts to emerge. Practically, acceptance manifests in daily life as self-compassion. When you feel fear, you say to yourself, it is natural to feel this way. When you make a mistake, you acknowledge, I am human, and this is part of learning. Acceptance replaces harsh self-criticism with gentle awareness. It teaches patience with your own growth and empathy toward your journey. By practicing acceptance, you create a safe inner space where all parts of yourself can exist, be heard, and eventually integrated. Acceptance also opens the door to understanding patterns in your behavior. When you accept your inner experiences without judgment, you begin to see how past conditioning, unprocessed emotions, and learned beliefs influence your thoughts and actions. This insight allows you to respond consciously instead of reacting automatically. For example, a moment of anger may reveal a boundary that has been crossed, while a feeling of inadequacy may point to unresolved expectations from your past. Acceptance allows these messages to be received with clarity rather than suppressed or projected onto others. Moreover, acceptance nurtures resilience. Life constantly presents challenges, uncertainty, and change. When you accept yourself fully, you develop the inner strength to face adversity without being destabilized. You understand that imperfections, mistakes, and setbacks are not failures but opportunities for growth. This perspective fosters emotional stability and mental clarity. Why? Enabling you to navigate life with courage and composure. Acceptance teaches you that inner peace is not the absence of difficulties, but the ability to meet them without resistance. Spiritually, acceptance is a recognition that wholeness already exists within you. You realize that you are not incomplete because of your flaws, nor diminished by your fears. Wholeness is the sum of all your experiences, qualities, and potential. Acceptance is the conscious acknowledgement of this truth. It is the heart's way of saying, I am enough exactly as I am, even while you continue to grow, evolve, and strive for your highest potential. Acceptance prepares you for integration, the next stage of wholeness. Once you have embraced every aspect of yourself, you can begin to unify these parts into a coherent, balanced whole. Without acceptance, integration is impossible because parts of yourself remain rejected or suppressed. With acceptance, you can transform the energy of the shadow into wisdom, fear into courage, and vulnerability into strength. Acceptance is the soil in which wholeness grows. Ultimately, acceptance is liberation from internal conflict. It allows you to stop struggling against what is, to start living in harmony with who you truly are. It is the act of meeting yourself fully and choosing to hold all parts, light and shadow, strength and weakness, past and present, with compassion and understanding. Through acceptance, the journey toward wholeness moves from recognition and confrontation into harmony, laying the foundation for integration, authentic living, and inner peace. In this way, acceptance is both the reward of awareness and shadow work, and the gateway to the deeper stages of transformation. It is the conscious choice to embrace your humanity, to honor your inner complexity, and to begin living as a complete, balanced, and empowered individual. Acceptance is the quiet power that makes wholeness possible. After awareness, confronting your shadow, and practicing acceptance, the next stage in the journey toward wholeness is integration. Integration is the process of unifying all parts of yourself, the light, the shadow, the strengths, the vulnerabilities, into a coherent, balanced whole. It is where awareness, insight, and acceptance move from being internal experiences to becoming embodied qualities that shape how you live and relate to the world. Without integration, inner work remains fragmented. You may see and accept your parts, but fail to bring them together, leaving internal conflict or unconscious patterns unresolved. Integration transforms your understanding into living wholeness. Integration begins with the recognition that every part of you has value and purpose. The shadow that once frightened or embarrassed you, the emotions you once resisted, and the impulses you once suppressed are all aspects of your wholeness. When you integrate them, you no longer view them as threats or flaws, but as sources of energy, wisdom, and creativity. For instance, anger, once seen as destructive, can be integrated as assertiveness and boundary setting. Fear, once paralyzing, can become heightened awareness and preparation. Sadness can transform into empathy and depth of understanding. Each previously rejected or ignored part contributes to a richer, more authentic self. Integration requires conscious effort and reflection. It is not passive acceptance alone, but active engagement with your internal experiences. You observe patterns of thought and behavior, notice how they influence your choices, and intentionally redirect thy energy in constructive ways. For example, if you notice that past insecurities lead you to avoid challenges, integration allows you to acknowledge that fear while choosing courage as your response. It is the process of transforming unconscious reactions into conscious, deliberate actions. This stage is deeply connected to the previous steps. Awareness illuminated your inner landscape. Shadow work revealed the hidden and denied aspects, and acceptance allowed you to hold them without judgment. Integration is the practical expression of these stages. It unites what was once divided within you. By integrating, you reclaim energy previously spent on denial, suppression, or internal conflict and redirect it toward growth, creativity, and authentic living. Integration is where internal work becomes holistic, and the fragmented self begins to feel cohesive and strong. Integration also strengthens emotional and psychological resilience. When all parts of yourself are acknowledged and incorporated, you are less likely to be thrown off balance by external circumstances or internal triggers. You respond with awareness rather than reacting unconsciously. You understand that emotions are signals rather than commands, that past patterns are guides rather than constraints. This stability allows you to navigate life with greater confidence, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. Another important aspect of integration is authenticity. By unifying your internal experiences, you align your inner reality with your outward expression. You stop wearing masks or pretending to be someone you are not. Your actions, words, and choices reflect your true self, creating coherence between who you are inside and how you show up in the world. This alignment fosters self-respect, deepens relationships, and enhances your capacity for meaningful engagement with life. Integration also opens the door to creativity and personal growth. The energy that was once fragmented, suppressed, or lost in internal conflict is now available to fuel conscious creation. You can channel your experiences, insights, and emotions into constructive projects, relationships, and life choices. The shadow, once feared, becomes a source of power. Your vulnerabilities, once hidden, become wells of connection and empathy. Integration turns inner complexity into a source of dynamic energy and wisdom. Spiritually, integration reflects a recognition of the interconnectedness of all aspects of self. You begin to see that light and darkness, strength and weakness, joy and pain are all necessary components of wholeness. There is no part to reject, no experience to deny. Everything is part of a greater whole that contributes to your growth, understanding, and fulfillment. This realization brings a profound sense of inner harmony and peace. Ultimately, integration is the embodiment of wholeness. It is where awareness, shadow work, and acceptance are no longer abstract concepts but lived realities. You become the sum of your parts, fully present and fully engaged with the wisdom, energy, and balance to navigate life authentically. Integration prepares the way for authentic expression, conscious action, and inner peace, as each part of yourself contributes to a unified, empowered, and resilient self. Through integration, the journey toward wholeness moves from understanding and acceptance into living reality. You are no longer fragmented or divided. You are whole, and your wholeness enables you to face life with courage, clarity, and authenticity. Integration transforms your inner world into a foundation for external living, creating harmony within and allowing your true self to shine fully. It is the stage where internal work becomes visible, active, and embodied, a true reflection of wholeness realized. After awareness, confronting the shadow, practicing acceptance, and integrating your inner self, the next stage in the journey toward wholeness is living authentically. Authentic living is the outward expression of all the inner work you have done. It is the stage where your thoughts, emotions, desires, and actions align with your true self, where there is coherence between your inner world and your external life. Authenticity is not something you simply declare. It is something you embody through conscious choices, consistent actions, and honest self-expression. This stage allows the wholeness cultivated within to manifest in your relationships, work, and daily interactions. Living authentically begins with honesty, with yourself and with the world. It requires acknowledging your feelings, speaking your truth, and acting in ways that reflect your values and beliefs. No longer are you hiding parts of yourself out of fear, shame, or social pressure. You no longer feel compelled to wear masks to gain approval or avoid judgment. Authenticity is about showing up fully, even when it feels uncomfortable, because you understand that your wholeness does not require external validation. This stage is deeply connected to the previous steps. Awareness gave you clarity. Shadow work revealed hidden aspects. Acceptance allowed you to embrace all parts of yourself, and integration unified them into a coherent whole. Now, living authentically is the natural outcome of these stages. When you act in alignment with your true self, your energy becomes consistent and focused. You are no longer pulled in conflicting directions by unacknowledged emotions or denied impulses. Instead, your actions are guided by clarity, purpose, and inner harmony. Authenticity also involves courage. It requires stepping into life fully, embracing vulnerability, and expressing your truth even when it might provoke discomfort or resistance from others. Many people fear being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. But living authentically means prioritizing your alignment with your inner self over external approval. This courage is not reckless, it is informed by the insight and wisdom you have gained from your inner journey. It is the ability to act consciously rather than reactively, guided by your values and self-knowledge. In living authentically, relationships transform. When you show up as your true self, you attract people who resonate with your energy and values, and you repel those who do not. Relationships deepen because they are based on truth, not on pretense or obligation. Communication becomes clearer, empathy more genuine, and connection more meaningful. You begin to engage with the world from a place of wholeness, not neediness or fear. This stage brings a sense of freedom, as you no longer invest energy in maintaining facades or pleasing everyone. Authenticity also fosters creativity and purpose. When your inner and outer worlds are aligned, your energy flows more freely, enabling innovation, inspiration, and meaningful action. The talents, passions, and insights that were previously suppressed or fragmented now become available for expression. Your work, projects, and contributions are infused with your unique perspective and authentic voice, amplifying their impact. Spiritually, living authentically reflects the embodiment of wholeness. You have reclaimed the parts of yourself that were denied, you have integrated them, and now you move through life fully present and fully yourself. There is a sense of inner freedom and coherence, a deep connection to your values, purpose, and the present moment. Authenticity is the stage where inner growth becomes visible in the world, where the self you have cultivated internally expresses itself externally with clarity and integrity. Ultimately, living authentically is the expression of all the work that has come before. It is where awareness, shadow work, acceptance, and integration converge into action, presence, and coherence. It is the stage where your life becomes a reflection of your inner wholeness, where you no longer live in fragments or fear, but as a complete, balanced, and empowered individual. Authenticity allows you to participate fully in life, to engage with challenges with resilience, and to create a reality that mirrors the truth of who you are. By living authentically, you bridge the gap between inner transformation and outer reality. You demonstrate the power of wholeness in action. This stage prepares you for the final culmination of the journey: inner peace, fulfillment, and the deep sense of freedom that comes from fully embracing and expressing your true self. Living authentically is the living proof that wholeness is not just an inner experience, but a way of being in the world, a reflection of courage, clarity, and the harmonious integration of every aspect of your being. The final stage in the journey toward wholeness through acceptance is inner peace, the ultimate culmination of all the awareness, shadow work, acceptance, integration, and authentic living you have cultivated. Inner peace is not simply the absence of conflict or difficulty, it is the presence of harmony, balance, and a profound sense of alignment within yourself. It is the state where the inner turbulence that once consumed your energy no longer holds power over you, and where you experience a deep sense of freedom, fulfillment, and contentment. This stage is the natural outcome of having embraced every aspect of yourself and integrated it into a cohesive whole. Inner peace begins with the recognition that you are complete as you are. Through the previous stages, you have seen yourself clearly, confronted hidden aspects of your being, embraced them without judgment, unified why, our inner parts, and expressed yourself authentically. Now, you no longer feel divided or fragmented. The tension between what you are and what you think you should be dissolves, and you rest in the wholeness of your being. This awareness creates a profound sense of calm because there is no longer a need to hide, fight, or control yourself or your circumstances. This stage is deeply connected to all previous steps. Awareness opened your eyes to your inner world. Shadow work revealed hidden truths that were controlling your life unconsciously. Acceptance allowed you to embrace your entirety. Integration unified your inner experiences into a coherent self. Authentic living expressed this inner wholeness in every thought, word, and action. Inner peace is the culmination, the natural state that arises when all these elements are present and harmonized. It is the manifestation of wholeness not only internally, but in the way you move through the world. Inner peace is reflected in emotional stability. Where fear, guilt, anger, or resentment once ruled, you now respond from a place of awareness and balance. Emotions are experienced fully, but do not control you. Understand that challenge. GES, setbacks and uncertainty are part of life, and you meet them with clarity, patience, and resilience. This emotional equilibrium allows you to navigate relationships, work, and life circumstances without being destabilized by internal chaos or reactive patterns. Another key aspect of inner peace is freedom. Freedom here is not about escaping responsibility or avoiding difficulties. It is the liberation from the inner conflicts and self-imposed limitations that once dictated your behavior. You no longer feel compelled to hide your true self, seek validation, or deny parts of your being. You are free to act from your authentic center, guided by insight and inner wisdom rather than fear or societal pressure. This freedom brings a sense of lightness and joy that permeates your entire life. Inner peace also deepens your connection with others. When you are at peace within yourself, you are able to engage with others without projection, judgment, or insecurity. Your relationships become more genuine, compassionate, and harmonious because you are no longer seeking external sources to fill gaps or validate your worth. This inner serenity radiates outward, creating a positive influence on the people and environment around you. Spiritually, inner peace represents alignment with the totality of your being. You recognize that your light and shadow, strengths and vulnerabilities, successes and failures are all essential components of who you are. There is no need to fight, resist, or compartmentalize any aspect of your existence. Everything is integrated, and this integration generates a profound sense of completeness and harmony. Inner peace is the state in which you exist fully, consciously, and in harmony with yourself and life. Ultimately, inner peace is both the destination and the ongoing experience of wholeness through acceptance. It is the natural outcome of the journey, the place where awareness, shadow work, acceptance, integration, and authenticity converge to create a life lived from the core of your being. In this state, you are fully yourself, free from the constraints of fear, denial, or internal conflict. You are able to navigate life with confidence, compassion, and clarity, fully aligned with your true essence. Through inner peace, the journey comes full circle. You began with awareness, moved through confrontation, acceptance, integration, and authentic expression, and now rest in the fulfillment of wholeness. Inner peace is the embodiment of the wisdom and courage gained along the path. It is the reward of facing yourself fully, embracing every part of your being, and choosing to live in alignment with your deepest truth. In this final stage, You experience the true power of wholeness, the serenity, freedom, and fulfillment that arise when you fully accept yourself and live as your most authentic self.